call the meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting. We are convened this evening, which is May 28th, 2013. Having duly assembled for the purpose of this meeting, I'd like to ask Councilman Jay Arrowood, if he would, to pronounce her invocation, please.
The agenda calls for Ms. Booker.
All right. Oh, that says May 28th. I'm in the wrong one.
It'll all start to sound familiar in a few minutes.
Yeah, I think we've already got that. I think we already got that.
Trying to take it from it now.
All right. I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's start all over again. How about that? Let me call the meeting to order. This is the regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting on June the 25th, 2013. Having assembled for that purpose, I would like to ask Councilwoman Kimberly Booker, if she would, lead us in our invocation to open the meeting, please.
Absolutely. Let us pray. God, we come before you right now as humble as we know how, thanking you and praising you for this day you blessed us with. Thank you for our peace of mind that you've given us. God, we thank you for the comfort that we feel in your arms. God, we ask that you bless this city, the citizens that dwell in it. God, allow this meeting to be uplifting and the information, God, to be uplifting to this city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. With that, we'll move to the public forum. Ms. Duncan, we have anybody to appear in public forum this evening?
No, sir.
All right.
Public hearing.
I might have to hand off to our Mayor Pro Tem. Not only did I start on the wrong date, now I've skipped over the whole first half of the meeting. Since we are close enough here to the first of the meeting, let me suspend our meeting long enough for us to have the public hearing that was scheduled this evening, and then we will resume with our regular scheduled meeting. And so with that, we will set aside our regular meeting and actions within that regard, and let me call us into a public hearing. With that, the public hearing is announced for the City of Greer's budget ordinance for fiscal year 2013 to 2014. This is an ordinance relating to the fiscal affairs of the City of Greer, South Carolina, making appropriations there for levying taxes and to provide for an effective date. During the public hearing, you'll be offered an opportunity to speak in regards to budget items or the budget itself. And with that, I will ask, by show of hand, is there anyone here that would like to speak in the public hearing in regards to the City of Greer budget ordinance fiscal year 2013-2014? For the record, let it show that no one indicated that they were here to speak. I will then ask for a second time if there was anyone here this evening that would like an opportunity to address council in regards to the City of Greer budget ordinance in a public hearing this evening. Let the record indicate I asked a second time and no one indicated so. Third and final offer to address the City of Greer budget ordinance fiscal year 2013 through 2014. This is your opportunity to speak in public regarding the budget and to address council in relation to the fiscal affairs of the City of Greer. Does anyone wish to take that opportunity to speak? For a third and final time? Seeing no one, we will call the public hearing to a close. With that then, we will resume our regularly scheduled meeting, and we will pick up where we left off with the minutes of the council meeting from June 11th, 2013. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. As Mr. Seifert makes his way to the podium, I will ask you to review departmental reports if you have not had an opportunity to do so yet. You'll find the May reports contained there in your agenda. As always, the administrator or the department head will be glad to assist you with information or questions you may have in regards to those reports. Mr. Seifert will bring us an update on our financial report this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're pleased to present to you the budget report for the period ending May 31st, 2013. And at that time we have year-to-date revenue recorded of $16,563,978 and expenditures of $15,503,976. And that amount is 5% under budget on the expenditure side. If you will reference the general fund dashboards, for revenue, we have a positive variance of $1,084,887 on the revenue side and a positive variance of $849,507 on the expenditure side. And again, that is for the May benchmarks. And our ending cash position for May 31st is $4,753,497. I'll be happy to field any questions you may have.
Council? Thank you, David. Appreciate the information and the update. Council is always, David, or Mr. Riggers will be glad to assist you with any questions or information that you might have in regards to the report. The report obviously can be found there on your agenda as well too, and our public is urged to look at that report as well. That information can be found on our website, and I think you'll find that very beneficial and helpful in terms of better understanding the physical affairs of the city, which are well in order as you heard in the report tonight, and can view also a copy of our budget as well there. With that then, we want to take time for a special recognition this evening. And I'm going to ask Norman Carter if he'll step up here and join me, please. Norman is a familiar sight if you are here or at one of our other facilities early in the morning, because he is part of the team that opens up here and gets started with the startup of this building, and takes care of a lot of the maintenance issues that we have here, as well as our courts facilities and others as well too. I see you and your compadre all over town. Y'all do a wonderful job in terms of maintaining our facilities for us, and I am sure that we're going to miss you. And with that, we want to give you a certificate of appreciation that reads, and somebody's back there telling me to put the microphone up here, so I'm sorry. I'm having all kinds of problems this evening. The certificate of appreciation says, "Congratulations upon your retirement from the City of Greer. Presented in appreciation of 14 years of dedicated service to the City of Greer from April the 15th, 1999 to June 28th, 2013. Norman Carter, given at Greer, South Carolina, this 25th day of June 2013. In addition to this certificate of appreciation, we have a token of our appreciation as well too, that we would like to present to you. And we want to thank you for what you've done and wish you well in your retirement. And do you have, I see you're getting ready to get your picture made there. So you need and with that, if y'all join me in a round of applause, please. Not often I hand a man a microphone, he waves it off. He's there, ready to say a little something. We'll move into our administrator's report. With that, Mr. Jarvis.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Do want to make you aware that we are continuing to do some research and are working on the banner ordinance. We are anticipating that hopefully within the next meeting or two, we'll have something prepared to bring to you on that. But just as an update, we are continuing to do some research and review a couple of other communities and what they're doing. As calendar items, reminder to all of us that this Friday we have the pleasure of having representatives from the South Carolina Ports Authority, from Norfolk Southern, from the South Carolina Department of Transportation, Greer CPW, and from the City of Greer will be participating in a community inland port public meeting. That meeting will be taking place again this Friday. It will be at the Cannon Center from 11:30 until 1:30. The format that will be used in that meeting is from 11:30 until 12. We'll provide an opportunity for folks to come in and meet with representatives of the different agencies. At 12 o'clock at noon, there will be a brief presentation by the Ports Authority representatives. They'll provide some information concerning their activities at the main port site in Charleston. They'll certainly provide some information about their facility here in Greer and their operations, their schedule, and how they are moving forward with their construction. They'll also provide an opportunity with some introduction to representatives of Norfolk Southern, how we would anticipate the rail service to support the inland port site. And then immediately after that presentation, we'll go back into a scenario where folks will be able to go to respective workstations and they can have conversation and questions, whether it's relative to the operations of the port, operations of DOT, how truck traffic will come in and out of the community, what's happening in the Victor community, how residential traffic will be affected there, whether it may be public safety, as well as all the issues and concerns that the community in and around the port and all of us here in the greater Greer community may have about that operation and what we should expect when they begin. We've been long awaiting this opportunity, and so we are glad that we are able to assist them in hosting that. I think you'll be very pleased at the information that will be presented, and we certainly hope that as members of the community step forward and have questions and inquiry about what's happening there, that this forum will provide the opportunity for them to get answers to their questions. So again, that will be taking place this Friday from 11:30 until 1:30 at the Cannon Center, and we are looking forward to working with those folks on that project. Of course, a busy weekend for us here. Freedom Blast is arriving this Saturday, and we are excited about that. We are anxious as we continue to watch the weather forecast, but we are confident that we are going to be fine. And we will continue to monitor that as we get closer and closer to the actual time of the festival. Again, that is this Saturday at 6 o'clock. The festival will run until approximately right about 10:30, but it's a wonderful opportunity of music, food, wonderful entertainment that we'll have here on the grounds. It is always a grand event for us as a community. We are in our 5th year for this event, and we think that this will be as good as any, if not better. So we are excited about what our Parks and Recreation Department and our other staff have done to prepare us for this community-wide event. But Freedom Blast is this Saturday beginning at 6 o'clock here on the grounds at City Park, and we certainly hope each and every one of you will be able to join us here for that event. We've provided some information in the past, but as a reminder, we are continuing to prepare for the Municipal Association of South Carolina's summer meeting. That annual meeting will be taking place here in the Greenville area. We are participating in a number of ways with that program, but most visibly will be the mobile workshop that will be held on Thursday as a pre-conference workshop. We have 110 mayors and council members from across South Carolina that will be spending time in both Travelers Rest and in Greer. While here in Greer, As I've informed you previously, they'll be spending some time learning a little more about Greer Station. They'll spend some time in this facility learning how we operate the event space here at Greer City Hall, and then they'll also spend some time at the Cannon Center learning how we were able to do the rehabilitation to an old National Guard armory. Many people around the state have those types of facilities, and many are excited about the opportunity to come and learn how we were successful in renovating that project. While we have them on site, they'll have lunch with us. We'll give them some information about the Inland Port project. They'll be doing that on a bus tour, and then also a site visit out at the port before they head back to downtown Greenville for the remainder of the conference. But very, very excited about hosting our colleagues from across the state as part of that meeting. Our movie series continues. We had approximately 600 people in the park last Thursday evening, and we are anticipating that that number will continue to grow as we move through the summer. So Thursday evenings right here at Greer City Park, we host the Moonlight Movie Series, and it's a wonderful opportunity for families and individuals to come and enjoy a free movie here in downtown in the amphitheater. Tall Tale Tuesdays is continuing to go very strong. That program kicked off last week with Mayor Danner sharing a story. If you have the opportunity, either individually to drop by and see one of those programs, I think you would be very, very pleased and impressed with that. But most especially, if you have children or grandchildren that you think would enjoy to come and spend a little time doing some arts and crafts and hearing a wonderful story that has a great message, those Tall Tale Tuesdays are continuing through the summer. Wonderful, wonderful opportunity with our partners over at Greer Cultural Arts. The Tunes in the Park program really kicks off with our event this weekend, and then it will continue on Friday evenings in the amphitheater as we have beach music for our community, and we'll also be hosting the Greer Idol and the Teen Idol program here in City Park as well. So a busy, busy time for us in downtown. The park is full of activity. If you're here in the evenings, on weekends, you see that there are hundreds of folks enjoying our property, whether it's here at City Park or it's over at Century Park or our many visitors over to Suba Road or Country Club or any of our other neighborhood facilities. We are very, very blessed to have those types of facilities in our community, and we're very blessed that our community is enjoying those facilities here with the beautiful weather here in the summer already. So that's the information that I needed to share with you this evening. I have no matters for executive session, but certainly recognize that later in your agenda you may have something that needs to be referred over if you would require any additional information that I may have obtained from our city attorney, and we'll certainly defer to that at that time if the need arises. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, council will move to the appointments of boards and commissions. Our Airports and Environs Planning Commission has 2 terms that are expiring this year. Do I hear a nomination for the Greenville side of the Environs Commission? Well, if not, do I hear one for the Spartanburg side?
Not at this time, Mayor. We haven't gotten one yet for the Spartanburg side.
All right. Well, with that then, we will leave both appointments to the Airports and Environs Commission open at this time, and we will hope to have somebody to fill those spots then at our next meeting. Planning Commission, District 2, has an opening that needs to be filled. Any action in that regard?
Mayor, I'm renominate Ms. Jones. She's agreed to serve another term.
Okay. We have a nomination of Ms. Judy Jones to fill another term on the Planning Commission.
Second.
Have a second in that regard. Any questions of Mr. Griffin? Comments? Hearing none then, all the Ms. Duncan and those that are in favor of Ms. Jones?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. District 3, we have an opening in District 3.
Mayor, I wanted to nominate again Mr. Morris Burton. He's agreed to serve another term,
Okay.
and he's been very successful in it.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Had a second in that regard as well, too. Any questions in regards to Mr. Burton's service? Well, hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. And finally, District 6.
And I spoke with Mr. Brian Martin, and he has agreed and would like to continue in his position, so I will nominate him.
Great. And do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second in that regard. Any questions regarding Mr. Martin's term? Well, hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council will move to items of old business at this point then. The first of which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 20-2013. This is the City of Greer Budget Ordinance Fiscal Year 2013-2014, an ordinance relating to the physical affairs of the City of Greer, South Carolina, making appropriations therefore, levying taxes, and to provide for an effective date. We have taken first reading on this following several workshops and times of discussion. It comes to you for second reading. I'll entertain a motion that it be received, and we will open the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Further discussion in that regard? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. We have the second and final reading of ordinance number 21-2013, an ordinance to adopt various international codes relating to inspection activities of the City of Greer, Greenville County, Spartanburg County, South Carolina, and enforcement of building provisions as provided in said codes. Council, we had a protracted discussion of this at our last meeting, and information brought to us from our codes department regarding this change in relation to our codes, updating to meet the standards that the state has adopted, and I'll entertain a motion to receive the second reading of ordinance 21-2013.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion or questions in regards to the ordinance. Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
No.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. In regards to this ordinance, this is the second and final reading of ordinance 22-2013. This is an ordinance by the City of Greer, South Carolina, amending the comprehensive fee schedule for the Building and Development Standard Department by adding code enforcement fees. Again, we had discussion in this regard at our last meeting, and I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. We have the second and final reading of ordinance number 23-2013, an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain real property inside the City of Greer. This came to you as first reading at our last meeting. Information was given in regards to the sale of the piece of property. As referenced, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion in regards to ordinance number 23-2013? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Mayor, if I may, as you move into the new business, if we may make a request of council, ordinances number 25-2013 and ordinance 25-2013 are both ordinances relating to dissolving TIF districts. It is our desire, in a similar fashion as we did with the Brookshire Road District, that we would establish Highway 29 Improvement Fund. It is necessary for us to do that by ordinance. We would like to bring that ordinance to you for first reading at your next meeting, and we would ask that you would hold over both of these ordinances to that such time that we would bring that ordinance as well, and we would place all three of those on your next agenda. With your permission.
Council, upon the recommendation of staff, we will take the reading of ordinance 24-2013 and reading of ordinance 2513 separately. Have a request that those be held over in that regard, and so I'll entertain a motion to hold over ordinance 24-2013.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion in that regard? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Similarly, council, in regards to ordinance number 25-2013, upon the recommendation of staff, do I hear a motion that we hold over the reading of ordinance number 25-2013?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second in that regard. Any discussion? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council's last item of new business tonight is in regards to the Greenville County Recreation District tax. This is an issue that has been before the council and our community on a number of occasions, and has received a fair amount of attention here in the last several weeks as it has come to a bit of a conclusion at the county council level. There's been an opportunity for both the public and others to speak, and some of you have exercised that right, not only here at this table, but also from others in the audience and in our community this evening. At the request of Councilman Jay Arrowood, it was asked that we place on the agenda tonight an opportunity to discuss and also to receive council's input in regards to the tax that will be levied to those areas of the county that have not participated in the recreation district up to this point. So with that, I will open the floor and turn it over to Councilman Arrowood at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. This entire tax, the way it came about, to me, seems to have been predicated on misinformation. As we know, it started with our legislative delegation, who was apparently lobbied by the Recreation District to go through certain steps to dissolve the district and then be absorbed by the county, and therefore the county now has a recreation district, or a recreation department. When we realized what was going on, we determined or figured out that it was going to be a tax on our citizens. It's going to be a tax on anyone who's not participating in the recreation district as it is, or as it was. This has generated so many questions that I don't think, in my opinion, that we should just let it lie. And I wanted to have some discussion tonight. We had a county councilman when they passed this tax by resolution, instead of having a couple of readings, it was done by a resolution, and that was the way the law, which came from Columbia, was designed. But there was a county councilman who said, we're not raising taxes. Okay, well, maybe he should explain how it's not going to raise our taxes. From what I understand, this first year it's supposed to be revenue neutral, meaning that there's not going to be any more revenue coming to the county than went to the district. So why do they need the city of Greer? Why do they need the city of Greenville? Why do they need Malden? And then that just takes me into another question, and that is, it seems like they are doing this to us as a us against them issue when we're all on the same team. Why should we be carrying more burden than we were before? We already supplement the county in several different ways. So I just want to throw it out there. I mean, what am I the only one feeling this? Am I the only one who wants to try to see if there's any other avenues we can pursue to stop this tax on our citizens?
Others?
Well, I agree with Councilman Harewood and I thought the whole process was sort of heavy-handed too, and it's for the council person that said it's not going to be a tax increase. Well, I imagine when I get my tax bill next year, and a lot of our other residents get their tax bills, if they see an increase in what they're paying, that's a tax increase. No matter which way he looks at it, whether he says it's revenue neutral or not, the bottom line is I'm going to be paying more taxes. And I think what really burns me is I'm going to be paying more taxes, but I'm not going to see anything in return, because I just don't feel like they're getting more money, but I just don't see where it's going to benefit the city of Greer and its citizens. And I think too, if there's anything that we can do, to stand up for our citizens, that we should do it. I'm for it.
Well, I would certainly agree with that. I voiced my opinion at the council meeting the other week, and I don't think it doesn't seem fair to come in, and I just get a little confused, I guess. I'm wondering, when we pay county tax and we pay city tax, the people that don't live in the city, that do not live in the city, I mean, they pay their county tax. Are they paying more county tax than I am paying? I mean, how is that prorated, or how is that handled? Is their tax heavier by not living in the city? Do they pay a heavier percentage or a heavier mill on their county taxes than I do? So why are we having to supplement, if we pay in county the same rate they are, why are we having to supplement and pay more as a city? I mean, we're already paying them, we pay county taxes, but yet, we take stuff to the landfill, we gotta pay extra because we're in the city. We send prisoners to Greenville County, we gotta pay extra because we send in prisoners over there. And now they want to levy this tax and put this burden on our citizens. And I'm wondering, when they do this, are they gonna start paying, like Ms. Cunningham's salary out of that? Or are they gonna start paying the ones that are, mowing the grass, and the ones that are upkeeping our parks? Are they going to be paying all the employees that are under the recreation center? Is that going to take away from the city's burden? I mean, how is that going to offset?
That would be a no, not going to do that.
Well, that was exactly the answer I was expecting.
I was thinking rhetorical. Yes, the answer is no.
I think you've all laid it out very well. I concur that I don't think we're going to see anything for our money. It would be very unlikely to see the Greenville County Recreation do anything within our city limits. And based on what they've done in other city limits, I would be worried about the investment, because if you look at the two cities they do now, they don't have much. So what we're going to do is we're going to be pouring money into their system to take care of what they already have. And I felt like we needed to do this also because the citizens of Greer that we serve, we've done very little discussion of this in public, if any, and they need to know who is responsible for this entire scenario. When you see your tax bill, and it may be a wash as far as the recreation funds. Yeah, if they've been taking in, I don't know, $10 million, it's more than that. It's going to be $10 million, but it's not to us. It's not going to be. There's going to be an increase to us. And the reason this came about is because however they did it, it was very slick. It was under the radar. It was all very secretive. They put this plan together, and by them, I'm referring to not just the Greenville County Recreation people, but I'm referring to members of county council, and I'm referring to specific members of the state legislature who are on the Greenville County Legislative delegation. There had to be a plan, and they worked their plan because this bill was submitted on January the 24th, and it had final reading on April the 19th. Now that's a total of 50 legislative days. Now I'm here to tell you that doesn't happen very often, especially in our legislature. So somebody knew what they were doing, somebody knew the system, they had it laid out, and by not coming to us, now I noticed Mr. Smith said in the paper today that that they had talked to mayors and administrators as far back as late March or early April. Well, I appreciate that, because that was just in time for the readings in the House that he came to us. This was a done deal. They never came to us, asked for input. The tax is real important, but that's not the main thing. Of course, the tax is important to us because it's basically taxation without representation. Okay, but it's the process that people need to understand, that your state legislators and your county people. Now, Joe, you did the right thing. I applaud you for that. And actually, so did our Rita Allison and Tommy Stringer. They did the right thing. But by and large, the Greenville County legislators hung us out to dry, us and 3 other cities. Now, they may have talked to Knox White throughout this whole process. I wouldn't doubt that a bit. But if they talked to the mayor of Simpsonville, he didn't remember it. That was obvious when he spoke. And if they talk to our mayor, I'm not aware of it. And if they talk to our administrator, I'm not aware of it until we approach them. The meeting he refers to may be when you finally were able to get them together. But I just wanted the people to know that when they see that increase on their tax bill, they need to remember who to vote for or who not to vote for when they're talking about legislators next time. There's no excuse for the process they use, because it left us out of the loop. It left the taxpayers out of the loop. There was never any public input about this entire thing. There was never any input from us. If they had come to us and said, well, let's put some triggers in the future, annexations will stay in the recreation district, or any property changes within the city would go back into the recreation district. Well, we might be amenable to that, because that's not such a burden at one time when you do it all at one time. But we never had those discussions. So the tax is important, but the process, to me, is even more important. Mike Fair, Ronnie Cromer, Danny Verdon, and Senator Allen were the ones in the House. And of course, Gary Smith was the ringleader in the Senate. Gary Smith was the ringleader in the House. And they obviously concocted this plan and kept it as secret as they could. And I just believe the people need to know that for future reference.
I think the people, too, ought to know, even to the night they had the vote on the resolution, that we were continually told, either by our legislative delegation, well, it's not going to raise the tax, or that's not what we were told, or at the county level, it's not going to raise your taxes. So here's more questions. One, either somebody's not telling the truth, or somebody doesn't know what's going on. And I don't want those two characteristics in anybody who is a leader for me.
Well, and what that whole scenario kind of feeds on itself. When I contacted legislators about this, Larry Martin was the first one that contacted me about it. And he said, hey, we voted in favor of it because we vote the way the local delegation votes. So if Greenville County was in favor of it, they were going to follow suit. They were going to vote the way they voted. And the lie, or the mishandling of the truth, where they were told that all the cities, where the Greenville County legislators were told that the cities were on board, that's what did the whole thing. If they hadn't told that, then maybe we would have had some legislators say, wait a minute, the city of Greer said they're not on board. The city of Malden said they're not on board. But the fact that they told them they were started the dominoes falling until finally every senator in the state, but a handful, but 4, I believe it was, voted in favor of it, because they do the good old boy, well, he liked it, so it must be okay.
And you have to make the assumption, although it's going to be revenue neutral in the first year, that they would not have brought on other taxpayers into this system unless they were planning on raising revenue. Because that revenue won't be directed towards the recreation district. It'll go into the general fund, I assume, of the county.
Well, if it's revenue neutral, and they've got, what, 19 million in capital improvements already on the back burner, how are they going to pay for those if they couldn't pay for them with that amount of money now?
If it's revenue neutral, what's the purpose? Why do it if it's revenue neutral? If you're not going to bring in any more money, why go through all the trouble and all the expense to put a program in place that's going to be revenue neutral? That don't make sense.
And you know the answer to that.
Nah, it don't make sense.
Mr. Driggers, are there any challenges out there that could be made that you are aware of? And would that, if the answer is yes and it becomes a legal issue, then I would suggest that we move ourselves into executive session to hear that.
It's a complicated question. The answer, the most appropriate answer is, are there opportunities or options to challenge what has happened? That's the very nature of the legal process. Yes, we could challenge what they have done. The issue then is, do we have case history? Do we have case law? Would we have grounds that the court would find that it would be appropriate to either to stop that process or to reverse that process? I mean, that in essence would be the legal question. It's more appropriate that your attorney, your city attorney, would be the most appropriate person to answer whether or not what those grounds could or could not be. I think from a political perspective, are there grounds? There may or there may not be. Is it your desire to do that? If there are, and then obviously that's a directive of counsel that you would need to pursue with your legal counsel. I would not recommend that we would discuss the legal implications of what we may or may not be able to challenge until such time as you have your city attorney review that and offer advice to you.
Well, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that the city administrator is authorized to get a legal opinion on whether or not, either in the document or the process, there is possibility to challenge.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion in regards to the motion. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
No.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
No.
I think until such opinion, there's not a whole lot else to discuss about it. I just felt like we needed a public discussion on how this thing came down.
Mayor, if I may, just as a matter of process, I do think it is that, because I've attempted to keep council informed as we became aware of this issue, what we were doing and how we were moving forward. I think it's important that members of our community know as well that not only the city of Greer, but members of the Greenville County Mayor's Association actively opposed this process. Once we became aware that this legislation was introduced, we immediately contacted every member of our legislative delegation and we attempted to explain the effects to our community, and we specifically asked them to remove, if they were a sponsor of the bill, we asked them to remove their name as a sponsor of the bill, and we asked them to oppose the bill. It first passed through the Senate, and it passed unanimously through the Senate. We have two resident senators, both one on the Greenville County side, one on the Spartanburg County side, and both of those senators voted in favor of the legislation. and again, both at our request to not do so. But certainly at the request of the county to do so. So, I mean, we weren't the only voice that they heard. Members of the House, we were successful in one of our resident House members, Tommy Stringer, was a sponsor of the bill. Once we explained the bill and the effect it would have on our local community, he removed his name from the bill and ultimately voted against the bill when it came to a vote on the House floor. We also had success with Representative Rita Allison, who is one of our resident House members as well on the Spartanburg County side. Ms. Allison was instrumental in assisting us to attempt to offer an amendment to the bill. The amendment that we offered to the bill was that the municipalities would be allowed to opt in or opt out. We were aware that both Travelers Rest and Fountain Inn were currently members of the Recreation District, and that worked for them. And it was suitable for them. So we did not feel that it was appropriate that we would try to dictate that all municipalities would be excluded from the district. So we offered language that would allow that choice to be made. That way Travelers Rest and Fountain Inn could say, yes, we're in, we wish to remain in. If it was desire of Greer, Simpsonville, Malden, or Greenville, then each could make that decision. We proposed that in a way that it required a 2/3 vote of the Recreation District to dissolve itself. It required a 2/3 vote of County Council to accept that as an operating department of the county. We asked that that same 2/3 vote would be required of the municipality to opt in or opt out. And we gave no real preference of whether the language say you opt in or you opt out. We just simply wanted to have that ability. That is not unusual. There are recreation departments operated by counties throughout South Carolina that is how it's done. That is how it is done in Spartanburg County. We choose whether to be part of the county recreation program of Spartanburg County. And by choosing not to, the assessment for those charges are not assessed on municipal residents because we don't receive the service. And that was the exact same thing that we asked of our legislative delegation to consider as an amendment, and there was no support for that amendment to be made. And we were notified of that. Again, Ms. Allison championed that for us, and she ultimately voted against the motion or the bill that was being considered by the House. We continued through that process to oppose. There was a meeting that was organized by the House member that introduced the legislation, Gary Smith. Representative Smith and other members of the legislative delegation, some members of the legislative delegation met with the Mayor's Association. Mayor Danner spoke on behalf of the association and certainly spoke on behalf of the city, letting both the legislative delegation in that setting as well as representatives of county council. There were about 4 maybe county council members that were in attendance at that meeting, including the chairman of county council and the county administrator, as well as the director of the recreation district. At that meeting, it was indicated that there would be additional communications to involve us in the process. The vote for final reading at the House was delayed at least on 2 occasions as those attempts continued to be made. There was limited success in any communications, in being able to reach any consensus about what may or may not occur in those areas that were not currently part of the recreation district. It ultimately passed. It went to the floor, it passed for 3rd reading, and ultimately signed by the governor, and it became law. And once that bill became law, it went through the process of the recreation district, of them then considering the matter, it was passed by them unanimously on each reading. A public hearing was held at their level, and then of course it went to County Council and was approved by resolution. All in line with how the legislation was written. Every part of the process followed the letter of the law as to how it was handled. Again, our position from day one has been that we opposed it. We did not think that it was beneficial to the residents of our community. We opted out of the recreation district many, many years ago, and our belief was that it was still in our best interest to opt out, or at least give us the ability to opt out. When we were advised that there was clearly a 2/3 majority of county council that had committed to vote in favor of the consolidation, when we were advised of that, I, as staff, immediately began to work on the process of trying to determine were there avenues that we could partner. How could we have some revenue stream of those, if they were going to tax our residents, how does some portion of that revenue stream be returned to us? I advised council that those were the discussions that I was continuing to have with them. While we opposed the process, we opposed the legislation, that if it was indeed going to happen, that it may indeed be in the city's best interest to determine how some portion of that revenue, either through facilities or through compensation, how that could best be achieved. We had one meeting relative to that discussion. Ms. Cunningham, our Director of Parks and Recreation, and myself had the opportunity to meet with the Director of the Recreation District, and at their initiation of that meeting, they contacted us and asked would we be willing to talk with them about what our partnership opportunities may be in this process. And that's where we were, to the point that it went to the County Council for their vote, and that's where we are today.
I think Riley said it best earlier about the partnering opportunities. The concern is it does become very political, and he's right. I don't know that we have representation at this point, and I think that's really going to be the challenge in all this.
We have no reason to believe anything they've said in any meetings, because nothing has been put in writing, and everything, go back several years with the things that they have said, you know, it's either out and out wrong, or it's a misrepresentation of the facts. So I don't see that even if we were to challenge it, you know, what does that mean? This becomes a political football now. If you challenge this because we don't want our citizens to be taxed because we don't participate, we're not going to give you your money back. We're not going to give a portion of your money back. You know, at the least I think we ought to have some of County Council come stand right here and just answer some questions. You know, Councilman, you said that you're not going to raise our taxes. Okay, now you're going to raise taxes. Answer that.
Raise taxes on individuals and businesses.
I did want to thank Councilman Baldwin before we left tonight. I thought he provided a lot of clarity in the meeting. I thought there was a lot of misinformation and confusion, and he provided a lot of understanding about the 4.6 mil increase and the fact that it was overall 9%. I just think they didn't grasp that at the table the other night. You could just tell there was a lot of confusion, and I heard it called procedural, and you're right, you don't take that kind of care to go through a process like that if it's revenue neutral. There's got to be some benefit. And I want to thank Alan for being there too and speaking on behalf of the chamber, and Donna for making sure that the realtors were represented as well. I appreciate that, and thanks for coming out and sticking up for us. It was really frustrating. It's the first time I sat on that side of the fence in a long time, and that was so frustrating. Everybody got up and gave their piece, and you didn't have the opportunity to respond. Everybody, said what they wanted to say, but then they got up and just kind of had their own ideas about the way it was going to go down, and it was very frustrating, but I really appreciate you guys sticking up for us and being there. Thank you.
Joe gave him a little bit of a math lesson.
Yes, he did.
You gave him a math lesson. You straightened them out on the 9% of the 40%. Yeah.
Well, it's only 1%, you figure all the county taxes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Rain Man.
Still not sure they understand it.
I went to school.
Oh, man. Council, if I may, let me offer my insight into this and hopefully help sum this up just a little bit tonight. I think it's important, and Ed did a good job of giving kind of an overview of the process, but I think it's important for our community to understand that that there was no one that fought a better fight than we did through this process. And it's important for our folks to know this. This is not an issue that we created, that we condoned, that we enabled, that we had anything to do with other than trying to stop it. And I can assure both this council and our community that from the day Ed and I found out that it had passed first reading in the Senate without basically anybody's knowledge at the local level, there has been no more vocal opponent against this bill than I have been. I have rallied the other mayors and administrators to fight this. We have, as Ed said, come together on a number of occasions and met individually with both members of the Senate and with the House in an attempt to find some workable solution through all of this, and we're simply unable to do it. And it has been frustrating. It has been disappointing. It has not been transparent. And it has been a process that was an exercise in government that I would not hold as a high example of how things need to be done. That being said, I think it's important for us to take an opportunity to look at this action for what it is and what it ought to be. And none of us here, none of us in the community, none of the folks in the other communities that are going to experience an increase in their taxes like what has been done or how it has been done. Whether or not we move forward with any type of challenge, or whether or not there's even a challenge that could be proposed, I don't know. And I voted against taking that action, and I want to explain that as well too. I feel like I would be a bit hypocritical to support that action at this point in time, given the fact that I am indeed a proponent of a regional approach on a lot of things, and we work hard to be a part of this region and to cooperate with other municipalities and other entities to make sure that we are able to figure out solutions to more regional problems that will be beneficial to all of us. And I think that there is an opportunity for us in regards to this dilemma that has taken place in regards to the dissolving of the recreation district into the county. I think there's an opportunity to make lemonade out of lemons, if at all possible, in terms of this upcoming situation. The tax is going to be there. I think it's important for us at this point to shift our focus in terms of finding ways that we can collaborate with the district to make sure that we can tell our citizens that they are indeed getting something for their money. And we have to make that case in something visible. And that's where we need to hold county council's feet to the fire now to visibly produce some evidence that if they're going to tax our citizens for recreation, that there needs to be some visible evidence that their money is being spent in a way that is beneficial to the city. And I think there's a valid argument to be made there. You know, we addressed this situation one time when one side of the road that was in the county and the other side was in the city, one side got scraped and the other side didn't. It seems a little ludicrous, but what that involved was us sitting down and talking with the county about how we might better serve all of the citizens of both the county and the municipalities. I think there is opportunity for us to work with them. No, you know, we may not trust them. We may not like the way that they've done it. But I think to want to ignore the fact that there is a possibility that we can engage in some sort of dialogue is going to be important for us to do. And I like a comment that Councilman Dumas just made about accountability. It just gave me an idea. You know, one of the things that the county is talking about is the fact that the old recreation district board needs to be reconstituted. Well, I think there's an opportunity, and I think I will share this with the other mayors, that we will go to the county, go to the new recreation department and the county administrator, and certainly even some of our county council members, and ask that representatives of all of the municipalities in the county be appointed to a working board that would determine how this new department is going to best serve all of the citizens of this county with this new tax, with this taxing authority. Because that is the only way that we will have a presence in that discussion. And the other thing is that may even lead to not only improvements to city facilities, but some cooperation in the joint use of some of the facilities as well too. That's pretty much been unthinkable up until this point. I mean, we have shared programming and we've shared some fields on different occasions and that sort of thing, but it may even give us the ability to do some joint use projects as well too. And I think that can be a benefit to our cities. Hopefully one of the first things they're going to address inside the city is going to be Riverside Park. I hope that's one of them. That's been a park that has been in dire need. And we own land adjacent to the park. And there may be an opportunity for us to create a much nicer park that would be jointly owned and operated out there than what we've had before. And that would be tangible evidence of us working together. I think we need to be cautious about cutting our nose off to spite ourselves in this regard. And I see this more as an opportunity than anything else. I'll pledge to this council and to our community that I will do everything that I can to see that we have some level of representation and even participation as they forge this new department and seek some guidance and understanding of how they may best work with the municipalities. And I think that's our opportunity to hold them accountable beyond this action that they've taken. And that was why I voted not to proceed with the legal action. And I just wanted you to know that.
We're not taking legal action.
I know.
Making legal inquiries.
Making legal inquiries. But in that regard, that was why I voted the way I did. Anything else from council? Are we okay then with instructing the administrator to talk to our counselor about information in regards to options that we may or may not have? All right. Anything else? Council, we have no further stated business or executive session this evening. We stand adjourned.